Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. Um, I went back and redid the crowds, and what I wanted to do is show you what I did with the files. If I can actually find them again, okay. Thought I was prepared. Anyway, here's what the deal is. The original crowd 10 was 92 megabytes, and the reason it was 92 megabytes because the graphics that I used for the render were 1080p graphics, which is 1920 by 1080. So what I did was I went back and took the original graphics and using Adobe Fireworks, which has a really nice batch processing in it, I was able just to take those frames and reduce them down to 720p, which is 1280 by 720. The original graphic was also 24 seconds long. So if you look here, you can see that this crowd 10B2, I reduced this down to 12.45 seconds, which you can see is only 26.1 megabytes, not very much. This also is a new one I'm including. It's just when you re-render in the system, the crowd changes a bit. So I just re-rendered it because I wasn't sure if I did the right setting for the render. I've rendered this thing about 8 times, looking at different settings and different resolutions to see whether or not there was a really big difference in the look of the crowd, and it really wasn't. Because I mean, originally these people are designed to be background. They weren't really designed to be super close. Now there is a mode that will allow them to be finer res and super close, but that's going to take forever to render, and once it's rendered, it's just too big to fit in Explaindio. What I'm considering doing is offering MOV files because you can bring those into Premiere and Sony Vegas and Hitmaker, HitFilm 4, and some of the other ones that can read a move file, because a move actually has transparency. Then you can create graphics in Explaindio, and then you can put some graphics behind, put the move file of the people on top of that, and then something on top of that if you needed to, if you want to put butterflies or whatever, or have some kind of banner fly by. But right now we're talking about the SWF. So 61.4 megabytes for 24 second at 720p, and this one is going to be 26.1 megabytes for 12 seconds, 12.45 seconds at, again, 720p. So what I'm going to do, and also I added a little bit of twist to the second scene up here. So I'm going to show you the video because the video is sharper than what you're going to see here in the screen. And then the preview actually gives you that warning that if you have any jitter in here or anything, that's not going to be in the rendered video. It's just explaining you're trying to process everything real time. So take a look at this video, and then I'll be back to show you how I did the second scene graphic. Come on now. There you go. Let me start it again. So you got the people that's wandering around, moving around, using Adam's idea to put a nice house behind it. Okay, now here's look at this. See, they're sliding over, they're moving. The house graphic and the crowd is moving. What I had to do was I was using the animation tabs in the canvas, and first I put the crowd in, and then since the crowd is 24 seconds, I designed it so that they slid over 22 seconds, and then I went back and added the house, and it slid over for 22 seconds. So for those that are not familiar with the animation frames on the canvas, I'm going to show you how that was done. But you shouldn't have any problems loading these two crowds up. And then I was looking at some other house graphics, and I'm going to be designing some so that you can have people that look like they're walking in and out of a house if you got a real estate ad you're trying to do. The original purpose of these crowds were for the state fair, and it worked for that. And you've seen the one that has the social behavior, which is what these are, and then you have the walk cycle where people are walking through. I do have some that are seated, look like they're talking to one another, and seated in groups. I have also the standing groups. Since Andrew is asking for examples to go on his page, I'm going to put together a nice graphic using these people and some of my dancers and see if I can get that on there as one of the example graphics. But I just want to show you how I did this scene here where it's moving, right? Okay, so also if you're new to Explaindio 3, you can use your mouse wheel to zoom out of the canvas, okay? Now what I'm getting ready to do is probably going to mess up the animation because it took me a couple of tries to get this right, but I want you to see exactly what I did. So let's see if I can move this around. First of all, here's, if you understand how the track's working, whatever track is on top is going to be the graphic that's on top. So if you look up here, you can see it says crowd 10C, right? That's because, excuse me, these graphics are on top. Okay, and then you have the house here, which is the second track down. That's behind it. If you had anything under the house, it'll be behind the house. So if you want to have a background graphic that's not actually in the background slot on the scene, you're going to have to make sure that graphic is at the very bottom of your list, and you can put everything else in between there. Otherwise, this graphic will cover it all up. Now, what you're not seeing is this. See, if you look right here, see that? That is the actual frame that's going to be rendered in your video. This square right here. So if you notice, what I'm doing is my people, see where I got them? They're starting at this left edge and they extend beyond the right edge. Okay, so this is where I'm getting that movement from. Now when you click on the graphic, normally if you haven't added an animation, this will say add animation, but since I already have an animation, it says remove. So then it will create another frame, which is what this is. So since I want this to move from this edge being lined up to this edge being lined up over here, I just created the animation and moved this so that it matches on that edge. And then see the heads? So I'm matching up the heads to look like they're just sliding straight across, other than they going up and down, because that's not realistic. So now I have this edge over here. And since this runs 24 seconds, right? 24 seconds is 575 frames, but I only use 550. So in the last couple of seconds, the house graphic and the people graphic stop moving, but you still see some activity in the crowd. So let me see what this is. So then, now look at where the square is, right? Now this is the initial graphic. You can tell that because it has these widgets on here. So I'm going to line this up. So this with the edge right here, right? Then I'm going to move it down so it covers that up. Now you can see, since this is the edge of the frame, I got all this to slide over. And you can also notice that coming down this far, I'm cutting off some of the house, so it looks like you have a closer shot than the actual house picture is giving. You know, it's all about illusion. It's all about technique. So once I put this down, I'm going to just leave it up a little bit so I can see the edge. And where is the edge? Okay, right there. Then I'm going to move this one over. Now you notice when I click on this one, you see the frames, right? 550 frames. That's about 22 seconds. The whole thing is running 24. So now I'm going to slide this over so that its edge starts about right there. So when I move this one down in place, and I put this one in place, this is the range of movement. So it's going to start on this edge and move across. This is just showing you starting position, ending position. So let me take a look and see if I got this right or not. So let me click here and see. I look and see if the grass is sliding under their feet, and it looks like it is just a little bit. So that means that the house is moving too fast. So I need to come back here and move this over some so that it doesn't slide as much. Because when I click on my people, This is how far out they're going. That's how far the house is. So it looked like they're pretty close. Let's see. Yeah, see, the grass isn't moving under their feet. Well, it is a little bit, so I need to slow it down even more. But this is the process you go through to try to match this stuff up. See, now it's not really moving under their feet, but everything seems to be going together. Now, when it gets toward the end, the pan across is going to stop, but you're still going to see some crowd activity. I mean, if you notice how low the crowd is right now, it looks like they're just all out here in the yard area. If I push them up a little bit, it'll look like some of them are walking on the background here, this porch area. So we're almost toward the end. We've got a few more seconds to go. Everything's going to stop moving, but the crowd is still going to... Okay, well, I was on the wrong track. See, I'm on the house track. If I had been on the crowd track, it would have still been some motion here. So let me go back in. I'm going to click on this crowd tracks when I come out. See how low the people are? So I'm going to push them up just a bit. You want to try to make it realistic, so it looks like... Well, better keep it right there, because it might not work like I'm thinking. Now I'm going to match up the heads. Try not to move it across any. Let's go back out again. Seems like they're closer to the house now. And they're not floating up or anything. So it looks like I got that down. And again, I'm looking under here to see if the grass is sliding under their feet, because if that was the case, that wouldn't be realistic at all. So, and also, since the iPhone 7 is going to be coming out tomorrow, or actually today, September the 7th, I did find out a way to put the iPhones in people's hands. Right now they're using the iPalm, actually talking to the palm of their hand, iPalm. So, see, now you still got some crowd movement even though everything stopped moving. And then if this was actual rendered video, it would just fade out. So I just wanted to show you how that technique worked. And so, see, you can zoom out of the screen. I mean, if I wanted this to be like a fast pan, I could, I will start with the house graphic and move this out some to there, then come back down to the people, and then move them out some more, trying to keep the heads level. And let's see, how close did I get? Yeah, looks okay. I think that it's going to be some sliding under their feet. Now, see how much faster? Sometimes you may want just a quick pan over, good for real estate work. And yeah, so the only thing that my graphics don't do, they can climb stairs, but they climb inclines better. I do think I have some stair scripts, and I'm going to have to get into those. But I still got my other characters to work on, so I'm trying to do a little bit of everything and get ready for the opening, so when EVC 3 is coming out, my stuff will be ready to go. See, it moved over a little bit more. You still got some movement in the crowd before they stop. So it's a lot you can do with this. This graphic is huge. I think, if I remember correctly, it's 3200 one way by 2800 the other way. Even though I'm using the 1280 by 720 frame, because it's so big, I'm able to make that work. Because again, if I move these out of the way, as you can see, this is the frame that's being rendered. You see how much bigger this graphic is? But that gives me the ability for it to slide on over. But you don't manually have this slide over. You set the beginning position. And if I didn't have this here, let me just remove this. So initially, this is what you have. So you bring the graphic in, you put it in place. And right here it says add animation. So when you do that, you get another frame. And then you want to move it to the end position of your animation. And you type in the number of frames. It's 24 frames per second. The graphic is running 24 seconds. I want the movement to last for 22 seconds. 24 seconds is 575 frames. I'm using 550 frames. to get my animation. And the same thing with my people here. I can put them in place, and I want to make sure the left edge is matching the left edge of the graphic where they begin. And I'll put them up a little bit higher this time just to see how they look. And this would normally say add animation, but I already did that. As you can see, there's 550 frames in this animation. So now I want to match up the height of the heads and put this about here, I believe. See, here's the bottom of the frame. So, okay, right there. And I'll put this right here so that this would be the range of movement from this edge to this edge. Let's see where the house is. So now I need to move these down, otherwise there'll be a white spot underneath. And there we go. See the grass is moving under their feet a little bit, so I have the house out too wide. So let me bring this back in. Because the further you have this over, the faster it's going to move, because it's going to take 22 seconds to go from this position to that position. So this is what you need to do. And yeah, the grass is still moving a little bit, so this needs to come over some more. And yeah, grass is not moving as much. So this is a trial and error process you go through to try to get this to work. Now see, that looks pretty good. It's not really sliding, obviously. But it looks pretty good. Now see, these people are too high because he couldn't be standing on this the seat there. That doesn't look real. So I can come back here, bring this down, put him back on the ground. Okay, that looks more realistic. Now I'm going to go over here and match the heads up. So see, they're the right height. And try this once again. See, now it looks a little more realistic. Not so much sliding under the feet. They don't look like they're standing on top of stuff. So it looks like, you know, a party crowd. They hanging out at somebody's house, waiting on the drinks to be served and the food to get cooked. Should add some speakers here and put some house music in here like Scott would play. And I did get some dancing characters. I just had to refine them a little bit. And so that's how it works. And as you can see, these people that are out here, they're not going to get rendered, because in the final frame, only thing that's going to be rendered is what's in this square. Actually, I think what I'm seeing here is that this might be a little bit too far over. So it's a trial and error process. So you just keep on going until you get it right. But I just want to give you guys an example of how this is working. I mean, this scene is easy. You know, you just place the people where you like them to be and put a nice graphic behind it. This graphic is also oversized because he has a lot more sky and the house is a little bit bigger, but I just wanted it to look like people standing in front of it. And it just takes a little bit of trial and error. You got to just make sure that you pay attention to where that square is, because that's going to be the rendered portion. One thing would be nice, though, Andrew, is if there was a way that you could hide graphics. I mean, you can lock them up here, and you can duplicate them, and you can get rid of them, but you can't temporarily hide them. Because if I could hide this background, then I could see where my people are sitting, and I could turn it back on, you know, so... You got an October debut. I'm not sure how hard that would be, but to be able to hide these graphics would be really nice. And to have a effect in here that's a cut, because if I wanted to put a transition over this and have something else appear, I'd have to do a short fade, and the fade still takes time. So if I wanted to just cut from one to the other, I have a graphic playing, put a transition over that may be a second or two. If I can cut from the current graphic to the next graphic, so when the transition is done, my new artwork is underneath there, That will be cool. And yeah, I just was partying at the state fair, Alaska State Fair, so I got my antlers on today with my Kahlua brand. So I won't be drinking on video, but I will be drinking. Anyway, have a good time, everybody, and enjoy.